Yo, good afternoon. Good afternoon, freedom marchers, freedom lovers, freedom family, and freedom fighters. Snapzilla Gorillas in the building. And we're going to get off into this, y'all. We're going to go over another statist talking point, and I'm going to try to tell you guys why it doesn't make any sense. Okay? That's what these episodes are about, right? Right? It's because the overall agenda is to show that statism is anti-freedom, right? And a lot of statists out there, they have these talking points to justify government overreach and government rulership and government tyranny, because they don't understand that they are living under tyranny, right? So, because of this lack of understanding, salute to Kelvin Black. Because of this lack of understanding, this is what we have. This is why we're in the position we're in this country and across the world. It's not just here, but in this country and across the world. So I'm going to get off into one particular talking point. And, obviously this talking point has to do with government rulership, right? Because people believe that government is necessary to ensure that everyone has access to health care, right? So that talking point, right, is that every American deserves to have free health care. This is something that Bernie Sanders pushed during his campaign in 2016, during the primaries when he was going up against Hillary Clinton to then go up against Donald Trump. This is something that he said. You know what I'm saying? He said that everyone deserves access to free health care, and not just free health care, but other government ran programs that we know about, right? Including welfare and housing and all these different things that they tell you is free. They tell you it's free. But they're leaving some crucial things out of that, right? Because nothing that the government provides you is free at all whatsoever, right? And that's what we have to understand. Salute to Tony Vigil in the building. Everyone needs to work for healthcare. Free healthcare, boy, is wild. Well, we're going to get into that, right? Who said that? A lot of people. A lot of leftist individuals, a lot of leftist statists say that everyone deserves access to free healthcare. What do you mean, who said that? A lot of people. This is a common talking point. Now, let's understand, number one, this free healthcare that they're referring to is not free. That's number one. That healthcare that they're talking about is not free, right? Someone has to pay for this healthcare. See, here we go. Jimmy Nguyen says we need free healthcare. There is no such thing as free healthcare unless you go to a doctor that is willing not to charge you or anyone for the healthcare that you are trying to get. And do you deserve that? No, you don't. There are doctors out there that will give people free healthcare and don't charge anybody for it at all whatsoever. But those individuals don't deserve that free healthcare. Now, what they're talking about is on a broad general scale. When they say everyone deserves access to free care, free health, they want to basically remove privatization of healthcare, right? Where it's all government funded, and it comes out of what? The healthcare that will be provided will be paid for out of, it will be paid for by the taxpayer. Yes, the taxpayer will have to pay for this free healthcare, right? That's where it comes from. Where's the government going to get the money to pay for this healthcare that they want to give to everybody for free? They're going to get it from you, the tax cattle, the extortion victims, right? In every nation where they get universal free healthcare, well, somebody pays for that, right? It doesn't come free. Wealth is being extracted from one source and it's being moved to another source. Therefore, it's not free. So when you look at a country like Israel, now, truly over there, the people of Israel don't pay for health care. They don't pay for college. But somebody does pay for it. The United States, we pay for it. We send hundreds of billions of dollars to Israel each year, and they use that money to pay for these things. But at the end of the day, it's not free. It's not free at all. So they want to do that over here, and that's what they look at. Well, look at Israel. Look at Canada. Well, the people of Canada pay for that healthcare. It's not free. They get taxed for it. There is no free healthcare. They have to pay for the doctors. They have to pay the doctor. They have to pay for the medicine. They have to pay for the equipment, the X-ray machines, the MRI machines, the CT scanners, all these different pieces of equipment. They have to pay for the building. They have to pay for the energy costs. They have to pay for the maintenance. They have to pay for a lot of shit. They have to build the hospitals. They have to build, and they have to pay for the ambulances. They have to pay for all these things that we say is supposed to be free. Well, this shit just doesn't appear nowhere by osmosis, right? You have to take from somewhere to give to it. And people in Canada, they pay over 50% taxes. Only over 50% of their taxes are taxed. Anyway, so free healthcare is not free at all. Free healthcare is not free at all. Someone has to pay for it. So this is what is going on, right? They want to have free healthcare in the United States. And what that would do is would make healthcare is already horrible, right? Because even with private healthcare in this country, because there is so much conflict of interest with the private healthcare system and with the government, because of government subsidization, because of, all these laws they create to help big pharma, all these vaccines, this vaccine schedule that they put out that ensure that they get paid hand over fist. It's still a flawed system because the government is involved. So you're talking about even with private healthcare, these, these hospitals, these private clinics, well, if they get any funding from Medicaid, Medicare, and all these different, social programs, well, they are beholden to what the government wants them to do. So even if you have private insurance, right? If you go to a chiropractor, you won't get the same coverage as if you went to a orthopedic specialist that referred you to a physical therapist. Yeah, because chiropractors, they generally don't want to shoot you up with drugs and give you a shot every time you come in They're trying to help you naturally and get back in alignment so you can have a quality of life. Whereas these orthopedic specialists, they might want to inject you with cortisol, cortisone injections, and all these different things. They want to give you surgery, right? Well, it's big money. So you got that. Imagine if you got rid of private healthcare altogether and went all social. It was all just government ran. It came out of our taxes. This would increase our taxation, by the way. Right? The rate at which we are extorted will rise exponentially. So it would increase the extortion on the people. Yeah. And then they would run the shit, right? You probably would not have access to a chiropractor. Or you would have very limited access to a chiropractor. Right? These are things that they would not want you to have access to. Alternative treatment, alternative medication. They're not going to pay for that. No, they're not. It's going to be very limited. You're going to have very limited access to the type of healthcare that you might want. Whereas right now, well, depending on the type of health insurance you have, if you have a PPO, you'll have more access to these things. They'll more readily pay for this shit. But you're talking about now, if it's the government running the shit, they're not. It's highly unlikely that they will allow you to do that, right? But there is no such thing as a free anything that comes from the government. Nothing the government provides is free. Nothing the government initiates is free. Nothing the government runs is free. And not only that, the government cannot and does not produce anything. No, government cheese ain't even free. It's not free. Government cheese ain't free. None of that shit is free. Right? Nothing. That's what we have to come to an understanding to. So when you realize, okay, how do you deal with this? If what the government gives you is not free, even if you're drawing welfare and you're not paying taxes, yeah, you're not paying. You're getting free money. You're getting free food stamps and all that shit. There are people that live on food stamps and free government money and welfare damn near their entire life. Yeah, they're not paying for it, but somebody is. Somebody's paying for that, even if they're not paying for it, right? That is what has to be understood. So yeah, even though you might not be handing money out for these services, somebody is, or it's coming from you in a different way. You're not going to have a copay when you go to the doctor. You're not going to have a bill come to your house. But I guarantee you, even if you spend of your life and never have a doctor's visit, you're still paying for that health care that you'll never need. You'll never need it, likely, right? Some people will never need to go to the doctor, not even for a checkup. There are people that don't get checkups. They forget about it, or they feel so good they don't feel like they need one. Not to say you shouldn't get checkups. I'm not advocating for that. But I'm saying, even if you get 1 or 2 checkups a year, you get 1 or 2 checkups, you get your blood drawn, you get all that good stuff going, you get a physical. Okay. Clean bill of health. Your blood work is good. Bada boom, bada bing, going about your business. You don't need our services. Only reason you would need them is if you broke a limb, or if you got shot or got stabbed, or you had an accident and you have to go to the doctor. Okay, so let's say you live 30, 40 years and don't need any real health care. You get your checkups, right? And with some insurance companies, you get a free checkup every year, right? with dental coverage. You get free cleaning and free dental checkups every 6 months. Right? So, you're winning more often in that regard. Yes, with the private insurance, you have to pay every week or every month, depending on how you pay for your insurance. But you don't have to get the health care at all. You don't have to pay for the health care. You can opt out. When you go to join a company and they offer you medical insurance, you say, "No, I don't need that." You can do that. That's your right. Right? You have every right to refuse health insurance. T says, I mean, don't you want to live in a society that's there when you need that, even if you don't make it all that much? Well, no, because see, this is the problem, right? We have been conditioned in this country and in many other countries. We have been conditioned to have to need that shit. Do you understand what I'm saying? Whereas if we were free as we should be, everything will be self-sustainable. You might live in a community, right, of people, a small community where everybody works together to get shit done. If you get sick or you can't go to work that day, you can't go milk your cow. You can't do this, you can't do that. Well, the people within your community can help pick up the slack for you until you're able to get back in the business. When you're able to get back to contributing to the community, the small community that you have, you're going to be taken care of. And it's not going to cost anybody anything but a little bit of extra work. A little bit of extra work. But the thing is, when you were healthy, guess what? You put in the work. Salute to Trill Will LDBC. I see you in there sniping. That's what's up, brother. Salute to you. Now, Colonel Laba says the fact that people don't even know the difference between good and evil, we are screwed. Well, people have different perspectives. It's okay for people to not agree on what good or evil is. But what I'm saying is, yeah, I know. Trill, I already know you know. I already know you know they weird. Trust me. The mind's not overreacting. But what if it's something more serious like a broken bone? I just told you. So in the community that I'm referring to, you have people within this community that have different skill sets and different abilities and different sets of knowledge, right? You might have a doctor or a surgeon within this community that works with the community. It's all cohesive. It's all synergistic, right? Everybody works together to get shit done within that community. Well, you would go to that healthcare professional to get the bone set. That's what you would do if you live within a community in that like that. So I want to understand how beautiful everything is now, right? I will say that one thing that modernization and industrialization has done is give us access to all this knowledge, right? We have access to a wealth of knowledge right now. We have information at our fingertips, and we have intelligent people that have gone to school to learn different things. You have electricians, you have carpenters, you have plumbers, you have doctors, you have veterinarians, right? You have soldiers, right? You got people that know how to protect others. You got people that will stand for that. You got people of all that have all different skill sets. Whatever you want. My bad. You want an immigrant, whatever. That's up to you and your community. Firefighter. You got people that have all different skill sets. Yeah, you don't need police officers. You can secure your own people. You designate individuals, able-bodied individuals, to secure your community against any danger, because understand that it will be dangerous. What I am talking about, voluntarism, the smallest scale communities possible is very fucking dangerous. It's not a utopia. I hope y'all don't understand that I think that we're going to have some type of utopia and all is going to be kumbaya. No, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be extremely dangerous. The only difference between that danger and this danger that we exist in today is that we would understand the danger with the level of freedom I am trying to seek. So, step one, acquire land. Yes. There are people out there. There was a family of, a few years ago, there was a family, there were 11 families that bought 99 acres of land. 11 black families. They are building their community over in Georgia right now. There was another group of families that bought more land. A couple thousand acres. I forgot exactly how many families there were. But people are doing this because they want to start their own communities. These are families that have doctors and they have construction workers. They have tradesmen. They have farmers. They have people that know how to deal with the land. They have hunters and fishermen. These are people that you can get together within a community and become self-sustainable, self-sufficient. Veterinarians, nurses, doctors. You have everything you need. You got the land, you got the water, you got the animals that you can hunt, and you got animals that you can raise and take care of, that can provide milk, that can provide clothing. Like if you get a sheep with the wool, you can grow some goddamn cotton. Grow some cotton. You know what I'm saying? These things are possible. But one thing you have to be prepared to do is to defend your land and your community by any means necessary, because the dangers will be out there. There will be bandits and whoever else out there that are not willing to do the work for themselves. They want to go around and they want to rob everybody. They want to bully people. You got to be prepared for that. You got to be prepared for a lack of emergency services that are provided by the larger government. No, you got to have your own emergency response system. You have to have your own. On large construction sites that I've worked on for almost 20 years, there are emergency response systems for that construction site, for the large ones. You know why that's possible? Because people come together and they brainstorm and they come up with these ideas. Engineers, architects, a scientist, they know how to obtain the knowledge. They know the steps to take. We have things like the scientific method that helps us arrive to certain conclusions. And it's not because the government made it possible. No, it's because individuals did the work, they did experiments, they did testing, and they found the proper steps to arrive at that. We all have this capability. I'm an electrician. I have enough experience and knowledge and schooling to have a master's degree in electrical engineering. It's not because the government zapped down knowledge into my brain. No, it's because I went to the apprenticeship program. I learned electrical theory. I learned how to operate electrical equipment safely. I learned how to harness electricity safely. The government didn't give me that ability. Cardinal Abba says, who built this nation and who set these laws? Founding fathers built the nation as a Christian nation and Christian values and morals. I don't know what that has to do with it. They didn't find anything. They founded nothing. They wrote a bunch of papers and said, look, here's the Constitution. That's what they founded. They founded the Constitution. They did not. Did they start the revolution that freed the colonies from merry old England? Sure they did. But what did they turn around and do? Oh, they freed the colonies from European tyranny, But they created their own central power from which to tyrannize. So what do we, I mean, what about the founding fathers? T says, so you're vouching for small communities with their own sovereignty. What are we talking about here? Hundreds or thousands for a community you live in? A community I live in? I would live in a community just large enough for it to be sustainable and not too much. Because once it gets too large, then you have people that will try to rise up and obtain power over other people, right? Instead of leadership. See, there's a difference between leadership and dictatorship. Leaders, right? When we're talking about, yes, I vouch for the smallest community possible. Smallest community possible to maintain the level of self independence and voluntarism possible. The larger the community, the harder it will be to check the individual trying to obtain power. Somebody says you're wrong. Tell me how I'm wrong. But anyway, I would want to live within a community no larger than necessary for it to be self-sustainable. Because the leaders of that community will be more easily held accountable for their actions. The larger the community and the smaller amount of leadership over that large community, well, those people in those leadership or representative positions, well, they're not going to be as easily held accountable, right? If you try to hold them to account, then they're going to they're going to start having law enforcement and all these different things. They're going to create these laws. This is what happened. This is what happened in Rome. It was unchecked power. Unchecked power. When you have unchecked power over large groups of people, it's harder for those groups of people to keep those in power in check. Like, look, we didn't give you power over us. No, we put you in place to represent our needs. And then also, the larger the group of people you're trying to represent, the more difficult it becomes to represent them. If that makes sense. Because if you look, salute the convos with Cam. Salute to you. Someone says stop labeling. Yeah, Rome had a good run, but what happened to Rome? Am I a Republican? Hell no. Absolutely not. Yeah, you know who someone says you're going to need enforcers eventually. You know who the enforcers are going to be? You. You remain the enforcer. You stay armed. So everybody within this community, every able-bodied individual is going to be a well-armed individual who is willing to step up and enforce the sovereignty and the freedom of the people within that community. And you're enforcing that against the leaders you put in place. Right? If you place a leader, because leaders are chosen by the people. They're not, they don't demand leadership. You can't demand leadership. Leaders lead by example, and people see the example. They say, look, this guy is, he knows his shit. He's on it. He's humble. He has a good amount of humility. He doesn't force his values and views on the other people. You know what I'm saying? He encourages leadership in others. He allows others to speak. He can accept constructive criticism. He doesn't make demands. He doesn't instruct people to do shit that he can't do or is not willing to try to do. Those are leaders. Richard Meyerhead says 150 max. I think that's a good number. 150 max. I agree with that. Because once you get beyond that, you start manipulating people, right? You get these large groups within these communities, and then you got people trying to sneak around and they trying to, put bugs in people's ear, and they're like, oh, you guys should listen to me. And they start doing sneaky shit. a Game of Thrones. They start playing Games of Thrones. Salute to Macadus. Macadus Mac of the South. Salute to you, bro. Richard Meyerhead says, delegated to big, strong young men who do the will of the willing class. Well, that's why everybody has to be well armed. Someone says, like Charlie Kirk, great leader. I don't see any evidence that Charlie Kirk was a great leader, but okay. Whatever you say. Hannibal says, are three branches supposed to be the checks and balances of power? But the executive branch these days has the executive power, which gives them the ability to do as he pleases. And this is what I have said many a times before, right? You have three branches. You got the judicial branch, you got the legislative branch, and you got the executive branch. Well, which branch do all the enforcement arms of the government fall under? They fall under the executive branch. So if the executive branch leader steps out of pocket, well, who is going to stop them from doing what they want when they have all the power over all the branches under the executive, over all the agencies under the executive branch? They got the Department of Justice, they got the Department of Defense. The Department of Justice has what? The FBI, the CIA, all these other organizations. The Department of Defense has the military. Well, what does the judicial branch have to check the executive branch with? Nothing. They can issue orders, and guess what? The executive can say fuck off, and what they gonna do about it? The legislative branch, they don't have an enforcement arm either. They have to go through the Department of Justice to enforce laws, right? They got to do that. Well, the Department of Justice can tell them to fuck off as well. Y'all remember where Eric Garner, not Eric Garner, I'm sorry, Merrick Garner, Merrick, whatever the fuck that guy's name was. He was the Attorney General under the Biden administration. You remember they did a hearing with him and they asked him some questions. They found him in contempt and they were supposed to place him under arrest. Well, he's the Attorney General of the United States. He told him to fuck off. Right? Merrick Garner, the Attorney General, said, fuck you. What? What you gonna do? I'm not gonna have myself arrested. Do you understand? So you're absolutely right. The executive branch has all the power because they have the enforcers on their side. They have the enforcers that answer to them. Salute to Mind the Manson Musa in the building. He says, my brother, the truth. And what's good, family? Lock in. And just remember, freedom ain't free. It's absolutely not free. Now think about this too. Here's a perfect example of how impotent the legislative branch is when it comes to checks and balances. Donald Trump declared war on the cartels, right? Well, Donald Trump can't declare wars. That's supposed to be Congress doing that. Congress declares the wars. They lay the taxes, right? But guess who just declared war against the cartels? And they sent warships into the Caribbean and they're shooting down tiny little boats that they're saying have drugs on them. Well, where's the evidence of the drugs on the boat? Well, they obliterated it. Okay? They completely destroyed these boats and told y'all there were drugs on them. Just trust us. Well, what is the legislative branch going to do about it? Not a motherfucking thing. He is essentially waging war in the Caribbean against Venezuela. That's what he's doing. You're declaring war on the cartels but you're not doing anything about the cartels in Mexico that are trafficking babies. Oh, well, in Donald Trump's first term, he saved all these children. Hundreds of children and thousands of children were rescued during Donald Trump's first administration, and they were. Yes, I was surprised. I was like, holy shit! I covered a lot of those rescues, and I said, okay, that's good. But the overall problem is not being solved. Well, where are these rescues now? I know that they found 2 clubs that had a bunch of children, but where are the rash of children rescues now? No, they're focusing on destroying tiny boats that have drugs on them when they could be rescuing children down there in Mexico and Central America that are being funneled up and through that. But they're blowing up tiny boats. They're blowing up tiny boats, y'all. Someone says, Freedom's March, appreciate you. I appreciate you as well. I appreciate all of you guys. Yeah. There is no proof that these boats had drugs on them. They just blew them the fuck up. They are waging war in the Caribbean because they're trying to intimidate Maduro. And Congress did not say that they could do that. Congress did not give Donald Trump the green light to wage war on any cartel. But what did he do? Here's the clever thing he did. He labeled them as a terrorist group. You see that? That is his loophole. But even with that, that's unconstitutional because the Constitution says in no uncertain terms that only Congress is allowed to declare war. Well, because Donald Trump has used the Patriot Act as the loophole, he named these cartels as terrorist groups, and now he's blowing up tiny little boats. Well, he didn't blow those jet fighters out of the sky that Maduro sent over there to get close to the warships. He didn't shoot those down, did he? It's an executive order that is unconstitutional. Not every executive order is constitutional. He did declare war. He declared war. He said it was a war on the cartels. He declared war on the cartels. Yeah, he did. Max Critico says the guy needs a civics lesson bad. Didn't graduate high school, but made a platform to educate people on YouTube. What did I get wrong? I went to college. I took classes in college. So what are you talking about? Tell me what I got wrong, Mr. Max Kritikos. What civics lesson? Give me my civics lesson. How about that? Salute to you, Christian Vasquez. Presidents have been doing the exact same thing for years, all the way back to Korea. So what? So what? And they're all wrong. They're all wrong. It's all unconstitutional. Tell me where I'm wrong, Max. Oh, did you run off? The last time Congress declared war was World War II. Yes. It's unconstitutional. Salute to you, Sandra Remo. I appreciate you. Amp Tune says it's our turn to run things. No, it's our turn to have individual sovereignty and freedom and run your own life. That's what it's our turn to run our own lives. That's what it's our turn to do. Where did Max go? Where are you, Max? Yeah, every war that they have waged since World War II has been unconstitutional. So what's your point? Yes. And Donald Trump is no different. Liberty and freedom are paramount. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hannibal says George W. Bush went through Congress to declare war in Iraq and Afghanistan. Yes, he did. Yeah, he did. Yeah, he used the weapons of war lie. He used the weapons of mass destruction lie. Yes, yes. They actually did that when they. That's how they got cracking. But that was all a dog and pony show. That's what that was, because they wanted the people to believe that they were justly going into Iraq. So Max, you ran off, and you're not going to give me my civics lesson. Okay, I can continue. So the idea, right, is if you're going to have government, right? Well, because see, governing is about control. So you can have a community of individuals that operate on one accord without somebody controlling anything, right? It's voluntary. People agree to it. Oh, realize Preston didn't do anything wrong. You can unhide Preston. Hell, unhide Max, because I want to see what Max has to say about my civics lesson. I want to hear Max talk about it. But the idea is you don't need government for a cohesive community to exist. Yes, we don't want to censor, right? Because I really want to hear what Max has to say. And Colonel Laba, I don't think Colonel Laba said anything crazy either. Let's unhide these people. Yes, Jimmy Nguyen is right. And, you know, these people, they're not my enemy. No. And I understand that. They just disagree with me. And I would like to understand where I got it wrong. Weapons of mass destruction, but George had the receipts. It was the U.S. Well, they lied about the weapons of mass destruction, right? They showed us satellite images of this and that. They said Saddam Hussein was gassing his own people. These were lies to drag us into a forever war. But the bottom line is, the smaller the community, the better. And you don't have to have government to have a smoothly running community, whether it's a communistic, whatever the fuck you want to call it. That's just what it is, right? When you have the indigenous people, they, like the Native Americans here in the United States, they were nomadic tribes. They moved about the land. They went where the food was, right? That's what they were hunter gatherers. That was their existence, right? You know, and they practiced medicine and all that stuff. They used herbs. They used the earth to heal and all that stuff. And sometimes people just died. Yeah, Hannibal. Yes, Colin Powell said later that he was misinformed, meaning that they lied. They fucking lied. But the government does this all the time to convince us that they're doing the right thing, right? So, yeah, for sure, realize I got you. So, the bottom line is, you don't need government to do this. Like I said, the indigenous tribes all over the world, hunter-gatherers, you know, there were leaders, you know, so some tribes had some crazy motherfuckers in there and all that other shit. This is just the nature of things, right? But now we have the knowledge, right? We as people, we don't live in those times anymore, right? We have been industrialized. We have been modernized, right? We are devolving. This is my opinion. Realize says, yep, they did, but he said it, but I believe he had the receipts. The receipts of what? Realize of the weapons of mass destruction? There were none. Because when they went into the country and they looked for these, they were not there. And that's why they had to come out and say that they lied. It was only after they went in there and looked for these weapons of mass destruction and were not able to produce them that they then admitted that it was bullshit. There were none there. Salute to Mind of Mansa Musa. He says dim lizard and Palladians running all that just like a movie. They live. Wake up. Yeah. The smaller the community, I won't say government, the smaller the community, the better. Right? Like I said, they were hunter-gatherers. Now that we have this level of knowledge that we have, now that we have this technology that helped us devolve, right? Because the technology is evolving, but what are we doing? Are we evolving with the technology? Sure, we have this knowledge, we have these capabilities, but evolving is about adapting to the natural dangers of your environment, the natural dangers. That's what evolving is about. We evolved into humans that could use tools to do certain things, right? We could make weapons. We could, we run on 2 feet so that we run on 2 feet and we have sweat glands, right? We evolved to have sweat glands so that when we're hunting our prey who don't have sweat glands, well, they get tired faster. They're faster, but they get tired. We're able to run for longer and not get as tired and catch up with our prey. So we're able to wound the animal, run. They're running fast. Well, we don't have to run fast. We have evolved to be efficient hunters. And that's where it stopped, right? Because, well, we started using our brains and our tools to build things for comfort. So we evolved the environment. We evolved the environment to protect us from the dangers. Yes, George was lying about it. Yes, I see what you're saying. Realize. Yeah, the U.S. government always lies. But Mary says, I appreciate you. Thank you. No, I don't have diabetes, but I was once pre-diabetic back in 2019 when I decided to change my health and change my diet and change my life. Don't worry about it, Realize. It's all good. I ain't mad at you. I know that some of you guys, I got moderators that they don't tolerate shit. They don't. It's all good, But, at the end of the day, you guys, nothing is free that the government provides. They can't provide anything free because they produce nothing, right? They use private contractors, they use private entities to produce things, and then they use our money to pay these contractors exorbitant amounts of money so that they can get kickbacks. That's how our government works. At the end of the day, even all that oil we have in surplus that they sell, well, the government didn't produce that oil. The private contractors produce the oil, and they're selling it to the government. You guys understand? And then the politicians, well, they get kickbacks for that. So anyway, guys, I'm going to get off of here, picking up my children. Salute to you guys. Thank you for coming through. Much love, like, share, subscribe. And I'll get at y'all tomorrow morning before the morning paper. Let's keep marching forward toward freedom. Peace.